Ready? Good evening, everyone. Those who joined through Google Talk, can they hear me? Can they see me? Because it is not through Zoom that we are conducting this session today, right? So we have given you a link of Google Talk or Google Meet for that matter. I hope you have joined and you can hear me loud and clear and you can see me properly. You can ask your questions by typing as well as by using your microphone, right? Today, we are going to deal with a topic in international relation. That is India and Sri Lanka. India and Sri Lanka. We won't be exactly discussing India and Sri Lanka from the traditional point of view. We will be dealing with the recent visit of the President of Sri Lanka to India. I hope you all know the name of the President of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe. And I also believe that you are familiar with the incidents which have provided opportunity for Ranil Wickremesinghe to become the President of Sri Lanka. I will give you small background of the issue which Sri Lanka has faced, although at this point in time, the seriousness of the challenges the country is facing is less compared to what it faced earlier. Sri Lanka is a classic example of how a government of a country can become the factor which ruined a country. So government of Sri Lanka, led by the Rajapaksa family, took some decisions which resulted into foreign exchange crisis, huge inflation, lack of availability of food and essential medicine. The people of Sri Lanka decided that enough is enough. We have suffered a lot and we want a change in Sri Lanka. The corrupt government, the complicit bureaucracy and the inefficient administration should be removed and replaced by a people's government. Hence, they came out on streets, started protesting, and the protest became a mass movement which involved various sections of Sri Lankan society. Sri Lankan people gave a name to the protest movement. In Sinhalese language, it is Aragalaya. Aragalaya, it means struggle. So Sri Lankan people decided that we have to struggle to overthrow, to remove this corrupt and incompetent government. The protest reached to such a level that the then President of Sri Lanka, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, had to run away from his country. In fact, Sri Lanka was a classic example of family-led government system. The Rajapaksa family ruled the Sri Lankan nation. The family ruled Sri Lankan nation. The people believed that it is because of the mismanagement, corruption of this ruling elite, the ruling family, that Sri Lankan people had to suffer. Protests erupted. Rajapaksa family had to relinquish the post of government. Later, Ranil Wickremesinghe became the president of Sri Lanka. Ranil Wickremesinghe came to India in July 2023. We are going to discuss some developments which happened during this visit. Some agreements have been signed, right? Some issues have been discussed. That we will see, although we have provided that in your material. After that, what we will do, we will analyze some issues which are prevalent between India and Sri Lanka, right? Then we will provide you some insight on how to proceed further, how to make the bilateral relation between India and Sri Lanka better. India and Sri Lanka announced or signed a vision document. So the primary or the most important outcome of the visit of this President of Sri Lanka is signing of vision document on economic partnership. I recommend you to make notes from what I am teaching you, because many of things might not be available in the material, right? Because material cannot be stretched to a limit where it becomes a book. Secondly, the way I am trying to teach you is through a very simple technique. I am going to simplify what is there in the material and also providing you very further insights. So if you make notes, small notes today or in the class, it will help you. What? It will save you time. It will help you to provide a solid, comprehensive, simple, systematic note. Anyway, so the vision document on economic partnership has been signed by India and Sri Lanka. Many MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding or Memorandum of Cooperation, have been signed under the vision document on economic partnership. Many MOUs have been signed on animal husbandry, renewable energy, connectivity, etc. So, animal husbandry, renewable energy, connectivity, trade and investment. Within these areas, covering these areas, MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, have been signed. But one important breakthrough or outcome of this visit is the focus on connectivity. Among all the important development that happened during the visit is the focus on connectivity, which I will explain a bit elaborately for you. Connectivity. As you know, South Asia is one of the least integrated and least connected region. One of the major challenges that South Asia as a whole face is lack of integration, connectivity. And Sri Lanka, India is very closer. So both the Prime Minister of India and the President of Sri Lanka decided that we have to enhance, expand the level of connectivity between India and Sri Lanka. So they decided that we should focus on air connectivity. We should focus on maritime connectivity. We should focus on financial connectivity. Financial, I'll explain that. We should also focus on energy and power connectivity. Energy and power. We should also focus on people to people connectivity. We should also focus on trade and investment connectivity. Although this will come under this anyway, but I am going to give you a different point here. Air. Proposal is to start flight between Jaffna and Chennai. We have provided that in the booklet. Maritime, a ferry service is going to be started. Financial, UPI, Unified Payment Interface. The Sri Lankan authorities have accepted this UPI and that will be used for financial transaction in where? Sri Lanka. Not only that, India's digital public infrastructure will be used for digitalization of Sri Lankan economy and polity. Like we have Digital India, isn't it? We have Aadhaar system, we have JAM. So India's technical acumen and expertise will be used for digitalization of Sri Lankan society. Energy and power. Grid connectivity between Sri Lanka and India is being proposed, is being explored. Maybe through underwater cable. Yes, petroleum pipeline is also being proposed. P2P, people to people, a land bridge is being proposed from Trincomalee in Sri Lanka to, they have not explicitly said the land bridge from India to Trincomalee in Sri Lanka. In fact, this is at a proposal stage. See, one of the problems with the entire agreement or this MOU or connectivity agreement is the specifics, the details of these agreements were not in open. Although the broad idea, broad agreements have been there, but the specific details that will be worked out by the government and the bureaucracy and administrator later. But this is an idea that there should be land connectivity because as you know, the distance between Sri Lanka and India, the Tamil Nadu part of Sri Lanka is very less. And you also know that, so the ancient period, there existed so-called Ram Setu, right? Anyway, so a land bridge, trade and investment is a very important aspect because as you know, India and Sri Lanka signed an FTA in 2000. In fact, it was signed in 1998, FTA, Free Trade Agreement, came into force in 2000. But the scope of FTA is very limited. It does not cover much of goods and services, right? Hence, the government of India and the government of Sri Lanka have been negotiating something called CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. However, because of the differing perceptions with respect to the content of CEPA and the opposition of parties in Sri Lanka and various other groups in Sri Lanka, talks on CEPA was collapsed. But in 2015-16, another proposal to enhance, to expand, diversify, deepen the trade and investment relation between India and Sri Lanka, this is proposed, ECTA, Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement is proposed. The Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Indian Prime Minister, Government of India and Government of Sri Lanka decided that we will work together to take forward the discussions, negotiation over ECTA. ECTA. You might get a question in PT. I think they have asked once this Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement in PT examination, 15 or 16, right? 16, yes. So connectivity has been a major area of focus as far as India and Sri Lanka is concerned. And as you know, many other MOUs and Memorandum of Cooperation have been signed on renewable energy, animal husbandry, etc. That is provided. That is not that much important as far as we are concerned. But we are going to discuss another issue that is also discussed in the meeting, which is very important. As you know, there are generally three fundamental issues between India and Sri Lanka. There are multiple areas of cooperation apart from that. When we mean issue, problem areas, that is what we mean by issues. Problem areas, challenges. Number one is the Tamil question or Tamil issue. Number two is the fishermen. Number three is the China. During this visit of the Sri Lankan president, this issue became a topic of discussion. As far as government of, one minute, I want to ask you one thing. I hope you know the issue of this Tamil question. What is this? Isn't it? The Tamil question. I'll give you a small brief on this Tamil question, 5 minutes. As you know, most of the problems in the developing countries are due to the actions and decisions of colonial powers. Most of the problems South Asia are facing can be traced to historical reasons and also due to the actions of the colonial regime. As there was a communal electorate in pre-independence India, in Sri Lanka also there was a communal electorate. It was Hindu-Muslim in India, it was Sinhala Buddhist versus Hindu Tamil. So, it is not given. Sinhala Buddhist, Sinhala is a language per se. It can also be linked with ethnicity. Buddhism is religion. So the majority in Sri Lanka is Sinhala, speaking Buddhism, Buddhists. A significant minority is the Tamils, who are generally identified as coming from India, and they are mostly Hindus, and they have Christians and Muslim also. So it is a Tamil versus Sinhala issue, or Tamil versus Buddhism, or Hindu versus Buddhism in that. Although it might not be right to caricature in this way, we can say Tamil ethnicity and Sinhala ethnicity. So Britishers, in order to suppress the independent movement in Sri Lanka led by Sinhalese people, started appeasing the Tamil community. This generated resentment in the mind of Sinhala community. As in pre-independence India, communal electorate and various other concessions and benefits were given by the British government to the other groups in order to divide the movement. Similarly, in Sri Lanka, they tried to divide it. This created division, resentment, polarization in the mind of people. When Sri Lanka became independent, in 1948, Sri Lankan government passed Citizenship Act. Sri Lankan government passed, Sri Lankan parliament passed Citizenship Act. This Citizenship Act resulted into the Tamil people living in Sri Lanka losing their citizenship, not this one. So, due to the impact of the Citizenship Act and various provisions in the Citizenship Act, lot of people living in Sri Lanka lost their citizenship. This created resentment among Tamil people. Why are you asking my citizenship? I am here, I am Sri Lankan. In 1954, another discriminatory law was passed by Sri Lankan government, in fact, Sri Lankan parliament. The law was Sinhala Only Act, which meant the public offices, the government offices, will be largely occupied by the Sinhala people, and Tamil language was given a secondary status and Sinhala language was given a primary status. The Tamil people of Sri Lanka decided to take out protest. They used so-called constitutional means, appeal, persuasion, protest, rally, all those things. But a communal government led by Jayawardene and various other individuals even before him decided that we will not be giving any benefit, any concession to Tamil people. Discrimination, oppression, subjugation resulted in the formation of LTTE, Liberation of Tamil Tigers Ilam, led by Velupillai Prabhakaran. This resulted into a civil war within Sri Lanka. India, because of the ethnic and cultural affinity and geographical proximity to Sri Lanka, felt the heat, in fact, the need of intervening in the issue of Sri Lanka. India's actions within Sri Lanka led to a 1987 accord. So, Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and Sri Lankan leader Jayawardene, yes, they signed an accord, India-Sri Lanka Accord 1987, or also known as Jayawardene Rajiv Gandhi Accord 1987. The fundamental or the most important point or provision or component of the accord is so-called 13th Amendment. Although it is, this 13th Amendment is not part of this accord, the accord essentially decided that there should be greater devolution, autonomy to the Tamil provinces. Right? So the provisions under the accord became crystallized through an amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution, 13th Amendment. From 1987 to 2023, August 5, this 13th Amendment has not been implemented. India wants 13th Amendment to be implemented. When Ranil Wickremesinghe came to India, Prime Minister told him that India is looking forward to the letter and spirit application of the 13th Amendment. Ranil Wickremesinghe proposed that we can implement the 13th Amendment sans police power. Sans means without. So he said, we can implement the provision in the 13th Amendment, we can provide autonomy, devolution, revenue, etc. to the provinces, especially eastern and northern part of Sri Lanka, where the Tamil concentration is there. But we cannot give police power to them. Which means if police is not under their control, what will happen? What is the status of Delhi? And what is the status of, let's say, Haryana? What is the nature of federal relation between Union government and Delhi and Union government in Haryana? Police is not under Delhi. Haryana has police. So there is a difference. And you know what Delhi government is saying? We need police, we need police, we need police. Because development cannot happen without stability. So giving police powers to the provinces is a demand of the Tamil community. Because we want autonomy, real autonomy. But the current scenario is that the proposal is 13th Amendment sans police powers. But the Tamil political parties in Sri Lanka do not agree to that. They want full devolution, full autonomy. The point is that Indian government has been pursuing 13th Amendment, 13th Amendment, 13th Amendment with letter and spirit. So, right. Fishermen issue, as you know, very easy. Because fishermen issue is dealing with two aspects. One is Kachativu Island, which has been ceded by India during the Maritime Boundary Agreement in 1970s. So, Tamil Nadu government has filed a petition in the High Court of Madras. In fact, even before that, Tamil Nadu government has been demanding that Kachativu has religious, cultural, social significance as far as we are concerned. It is our territory. They also cite historical evidence. Ramnath Raja, he had a jamindari on that. All those things. So, Kachativu is an issue because the fishermen also go there and used to fish around the island before the agreement was signed. Although the maritime boundary agreement between India and Sri Lanka did not stop fishing in traditional waters, but the letters exchanged by the Indian bureaucracy and Sri Lankan bureaucracy ultimately resulted into what? Ultimately resulted into stoppage of, or ultimately resulted into the fishermen losing their fishing rights. But anyway, the point is that one proposal as far as the fisherman issue is concerned is that Sri Lankan government has proposed this. It's only a proposal, right? We can provide license to Indian fishermen, which means only licensed Indian fishermen can come and fish here. So this will reduce conflict between Indian fishermen and Sri Lankan fishermen, and Sri Lankan armed forces and Indian poor fishermen. As you know, there have been multiple instances where the Sri Lankan Navy, the Coast Guard have been firing upon the fishermen. One of the major problems is that due to climate change and this global warming, the fishing stock in the Gulf of Mannar and Pak region or Pak Strait is being depleted. You read every day in news, Sri Lankan Navy attack, Sri Lankan Navy shot, etc., etc. So one proposal from the Sri Lankan side has been that we can provide license to them, which means only those who are having valid license can come. But the fishing community in Sri Lanka is opposed to it. So also the opposition. There is a joint working group which is set up. Joint working group between India and Sri Lanka. This joint working group is dealing with the issue. It's a practical mechanism set by India and Sri Lanka to deal with the fishermen issue, which has Coast Guard, the Marine Police, the government Tamil Nadu, the government of India and Sri Lankan representative, etc. So let's say somebody is trespassed into the Sri Lankan waters, right? If they are captured by the Sri Lankan Navy, they can be handed over, etc., etc. Even the fishermen can be given advice that don't go there, this is our area, etc. So this joint working group is working on this fishermen issue, but again, it's a very complicated challenge that has to be addressed. It is out of the scope of this discussion, but I want to focus upon this China. Prime Minister of India said, what Prime Minister of India said? Prime Minister of India said, Prime Minister of India said, security and development of India and Sri Lanka are intertwined. Security and development of India and Sri Lanka are intertwined. What does it mean? Intertwined. Mutual. Joint. I am going to focus upon the question of security. What Prime Minister has said? In the context of increasing footprints of China in the Indian Ocean region, Chinese influence in Sri Lanka can create multiple security challenges to India. So India has been very clear to categorically and clear and it put forward its point of view that Sri Lanka cannot become a satellite state, although this word is not used, but I am using it. Sri Lanka going towards China will have serious implications as far as India is concerned. And this is very important, especially in the context that Sri Lanka cannot afford to go to China. Why? As you know, Sri Lanka experienced an economic crisis, which I mentioned in the beginning. This economic crisis, who responded first? The first responder has been India. India sent medicine, food, fuel, $4 billion worth. Money is also been given to Sri Lanka. So India stood with Sri Lanka in the time of crisis. That is why the heading of the topic is a friend in need is friend indeed. External Affairs Minister of this country described the relation between India and Sri Lanka as blood is thicker than water. Blood is thicker than water. It simply means that we have a very close relation, right? But anyway, the point I am trying to make is the Rajapaksa family regime, which I mentioned earlier. They took a stand which took Sri Lanka towards China. The Rajapaksa government, which was in power for almost for more than a decade, took such decisions and steps which were pro-China. Very classic example is Hambantota port, as you know. Hambantota port has been leased to the Chinese government for 99 years or more than that. Not only that, China has invested heavily in infrastructure projects, power projects, transport and various other connectivity, even renewable energy in Sri Lanka. That is why when the economic crisis happened, the largest amount of external debt of Sri Lanka was held by China. Not only that, Sri Lanka has become an important country in the One Belt, One Road project of China. As you know, Sri Lanka is one of the important pearl in the string of pearl. But when crisis hit Sri Lanka, China did not come to help Sri Lanka. When COVID happened, it was India who helped. So, timely help of India to Sri Lanka to tide over the crisis and continuing assistance generated lot of goodwill in the mind of people as well as in the minds of some political parties. That is why now there is a visible change in the approach within the Sri Lankan society, that we cannot depend upon China. Although China is providing loan and assistance, etc., but the debt is so huge, right? And it is because of India's assurance along with other countries that IMF was able to provide loan to China, Sri Lanka. China was the last country which agreed for providing assurance. India was the first country to provide assurance to IMF that yes, we stand guarantee for Sri Lanka. So India's timely assistance, support, financial and otherwise, to Sri Lanka in the context of economic crisis provided or generated a lot of goodwill as far as India is concerned. And also Ranil Wickremesinghe is not Mahinda Rajapaksa. India always view Ranil Wickremesinghe as having a pro-India approach. And that is one reason the opposition in Sri Lanka is against the Ranil Wickremesinghe's approach as far as India is concerned. They say that the connectivity project which you are signing, agreeing, nothing is in parliament. You are going and agreeing with this connectivity. What about the sovereignty of this country? You are using Trincomalee. See, Trincomalee is a port region in Sri Lanka. You want to develop Trincomalee and you are signing a lot of agreement, but the people of Trincomalee are in dark. The MPs, MLAs, legislators, they don't know what is it. But again, Ranil Wickremesinghe is facing opposition as far as political opposition is concerned. Not only that, there is also a problem with the Sinhala Buddhist majority. Sinhala Buddhist majority in Sri Lanka does not want to give any quarter as far as Tamil society is concerned. They have the superiority complex. We don't want to give anything to the Tamilian. So although Ranil Wickremesinghe is trying to improve relation or expand relation as far as India is concerned, the domestic political situation in Sri Lanka is also a challenge as far as India is concerned. As of today, India has multiple projects in Sri Lanka. There is a high impact community project in which a lot of houses and various community buildings have been built by India in the north and south. Right? Not only that, Adani is also engaged in Sri Lanka. There is a Western Colombo container terminal. Western Colombo container terminal, I think, yes. So, Colombo container terminal, western part is being developed or built by the Adani group. And in Mannar also, in Mannar also there is some renewable energy project is also being constructed. India is investing heavily, both politically, diplomatically and infrastructurally in Sri Lanka. Because Sri Lanka is one of the important components of India's neighborhood first policy and sagar. Hence, we do not afford to have a Sri Lanka which is inclined towards to China. India-China relation is at a very low ebb. And China is a country which wants to establish hegemony in the entire Asia. The One Belt, One Road is a method for achieving that. China cannot afford to see India rising. So China will use its economic might to expand its influence in the Indian Ocean region. Recently, China has developed something called Indian Ocean Regional Forum, as if China is an Indian Ocean country. China does not have any connection with Indian Ocean. It's a Pacific Ocean country. But China is trying to expand its influence in Indian Ocean region for a long, long time. And Sri Lanka is a very important country as far as this is concerned. For India and China both, if you see, Sri Lanka is situated in the maritime or SLOC, sea lanes of communication route. It has multiple ports, multiple areas where proper ports can be developed. And as you know, today, if you want to rule the world, you should have supremacy over the sea. And Indian Ocean is India's ocean. China says that Indian Ocean is not India's ocean. But we will say Indian Ocean is India's ocean. It does not mean that we are going to compel other countries to follow what we want. No. India is a major country here. And we have been associated with Indian Ocean, right? So the peace and security in Indian Ocean is very much important as we are concerned. And Chinese designs and ambition in Indian Ocean region is not benevolent. Hence, as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, Sri Lanka should not take any such activities or decisions which allow China to increase its sphere of influence in Sri Lanka. India's security and Sri Lanka's security, India's development and Sri Lanka's development are intertwined. There are multiple other angles as far as China, India is concerned when we deal with Indo-Pacific. We'll discuss that, right? Ultimately, this coast from Eastern Africa to the Australian western coast and the tropical waters. This is something people call it as Indo-Pacific. But again, there are different perception or version that it also includes the waters in the west coast of Latin America. It also includes USA, etc., etc. But as far as Indo-Pacific is concerned, there is no standard definition. But anyway, Sri Lanka is an important country in Indian Ocean as well as Indo-Pacific. In Indo-Pacific, China is pitted against other countries. India and China have neighborhood problems. Right? Sri Lanka-Sri Lanka relation needs to be seen in the context of increasing Chinese affiliation in Indian Ocean and Indo-Pacific region. So it is not only a bilateral relation. The relation between India and Sri Lanka also have regional and multilateral, for that matter, global implications. But having said that, India cannot afford to overlook the human rights violations, especially conducted during the LTTE war under the Mahinda Rajapaksa regime. Second, and also we want a permanent solution as far as the Tamil question is concerned, because it has security issues also into India and also create domestic challenges. Right? So a permanent solution as far as Tamil question is concerned has to be there. The starting point can be the implementation of 13th Amendment. Number one, as far as fishermen issue is concerned, and online it is ongoing, we need to provide some kind of other livelihood opportunity for individuals who are traditional fishermen, right? And Sri Lankan authorities needs to be sensitized as far as dealing with Indian fishermen are concerned. But as far as the strategic relation between India and Sri Lanka are concerned, yes, India needs to invest its political capital, diplomatic energy, and also private sector and various other steps needs to be taken, so that there should be continuous engagement between India and Sri Lanka. Right? As far as security is concerned, development is concerned, everything, human resources is concerned, there should be continuous engagement. Political direction is given. Higher level political direction has been given by the Prime Minister and the President. Now it is for the ministers and the bureaucracy and various other important stakeholders to take through this relation. As India and Sri Lanka are age-old friends. When it? 2022 mains examination, India and Sri Lanka are age-old friends. Because of India and Sri Lanka are age-old friends, friends in need, friends who help in need are real friends. So Sri Lanka has to reciprocate and should learn lessons from the increasing affinity towards China. Sri Lanka should know that it is an Indian Ocean country, not an Asia-Pacific country. India is nearby, and India has a very benevolent approach as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. Right? Hence, both India and Sri Lanka should work together for peace, stability and development in the region. Right? India can use multiple measures in order to bring closure as far as the Tamil issue is concerned. But it is also necessary that India should try to develop bipartisan support in Sri Lankan society. If government says somebody else come, it might be possible that it might have different approach as far as Bangladesh is concerned, Sheikh Hasina and Begum Khalida. Right? So this visit is important, and this visit will be followed by the visits and meetings, negotiation, etc. by the bureaucracy and various ministers. So this is as far as India, Sri Lanka is concerned. Right? Anything you want to ask, you can ask. I will be answering some question. Chinese debt trap is clearly visible in case of Pakistan militarization of South China Sea. India is many countries along with China. Developing country means a country which requires development. Development requires money, capital, technology. So who will provide? The one who has, it will provide. China has it. China is providing, number one. Number two, the conditionalities attached with the capital provision is very much limited as far as China is concerned. I'll give you an example here. IMF provided loan to Sri Lanka, IMF. That too, after too many conditionalities and procedures. Sri Lankan parliament had to pass a bill in parliament. The nomenclature of the bill, although it might not be exactly the same, it is an anti-corruption bill, something like this. An anti-corruption bill has to be passed in Sri Lanka. IMF said, you pass this, because whatever money we are giving you, what if we are using for mismanagement, misgovernance, corruption? So IMF said, pass this. And IMF also undertakes periodic review. That money I gave you, where did you use? Give me account, give me audit. It carries out governance audit. Governance audit is carried out by IMF. Now if China provides, what will China say? No conditionality. Take this. Only conditionality is that interest rate is high. If you don't pay, we will take your land, so something like that. I mean, the point is that whatever money is given, it can be used for personal purposes, individual purposes. It is not necessary that it will be used for infrastructure. Money is given by China, Rajapaksa family became rich. So in IMF system, this might be very difficult. Although it's only a bill, implementation depends. But conditionality is provided, no conditionality. So that is the reason. Rajapaksa family? Yes, that is it is said that, in fact, people of Sri Lanka have been saying this. They have used this money for their own benefits, building resort, building all those things and sending money to this. So if China is a non-democratic authoritarian country, and most of the countries who have become part of this OBOR so-called are either soft authoritarian or purely non-democratic nations. You said Sri Lanka, similar. Mahinda Rajapaksa was militarization society, authoritarian kind of thing. Maldives, who was under this, Abdullah Gayoom, not Gayoom, what was his name? Abdullah Yameen, right? If you see Iran, authoritarian. African nations, no democracy at all. Entire Southeast Asia, if you see, none of the Southeast Asian countries have democracy in that sense as India is concerned. Chinese money provides easy capital without conditionalities. But it comes with condition attached. But those conditions impact the general public, not the rulers. But as far as IMF and World Bank concerned, conditionality. As far as India is concerned, as you know, this, what is that? Structural Adjustment and Stabilization Program. LPG, 1990. Conditionality. Right? In order to discourage these countries from getting into the debt trap of China, India, Japan formed something called AAGC. Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. There is another something, what is that? Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, led by USA. Things are being followed. For that, money can be given to these countries for their own development, instead of they being under the sphere of influence China. So if India provides money, development assistance to Sri Lanka, they would not have the incentive to go towards China. Okay? Anything else? Good evening to all. Shashank. Hello. Anything else you want to ask? Monday we'll have the discussion on internet shutdown. Right? Monday 6 p.m. internet shutdown. That I will take as far as the polity is concerned. The suspension rules, right? And what are the implications of it for democracy and economic development, etc., etc. That we will see. Read the material, make small note if you feel that it is necessary after the discussion. Write the questions tomorrow. Tomorrow you will have Karol Bagh Center, the class is open. Right, we have provided you 4 to 5 questions. You write them, go there and write. And if you want these questions, which we covered in the entire ED, 6 ED, almost 12 questions. If you want to write them, you can also write and submit. We'll check it. Revision is important. Keep this in mind. Concept, content, revision and practice. Right? Thank you so much. All the best. Anyway, Chirag Sharma. What about abstaining from voting in UGN resolution? Question. Recently, that is 20, 21, 22, I think, three times. India abstained from this HRC resolution. But once India has voted against Sri Lanka also during the Manmohan Singh regime. But the question is, see, prima facie it might look that India abstaining from UNHRC voting, which criticizes the human rights violation in Sri Lanka, is like going away from India's support to Tamil question. India has always maintained that domestic challenges should be solved domestically. India always resisted, in fact, took a principled stand against international intervention in domestic affairs. Right? But it is true that UN as a body, India sees that UN as the epitome of global peace and development. But India's abstention from UNHRC in no way validates the proposition that India does not care for Tamils. If that is the case, then Prime Minister of India would not have discussed this issue with Wickramasinghe. If that is the case, External Affairs Minister would not have met the All India Party in Sri Lanka when he visited in 2022. Taking one decision does not mean that we are moving away from that. It is the world of real politics, which means realism. Interests are multiple. National interest is not one. Right? There are many things which happen behind the curtain. As India abstained from the UNHRC resolution, Sri Lanka became more close to India. Because no country would like to have an international team inspecting, going through. It is a violation of sovereignty. It also indicates lack of capability or willingness of the government to address the problem. So India is a country which stood for Sri Lanka domestically as well internationally. Right? Abstaining from voting does not mean that India is against or India is moving away from the question of Tamil issue. Tamil issue resolution is one of the most important aspect as far as India and Sri Lanka is concerned. Right? These are not mutually exclusive. This one done, so this is not happening. No, it's not like that. Right? Anyway. Anything else? Thank you so much. All the best. See you on Monday.